So the prophet Nathan is kind of a bit player in the story of David. Doesn't get a lot of airtime in 2 Samuel, although his one moment in the spotlight is pretty incredible. He's got this great monologue where he calls David out on his sin. And that's important, but I think sometimes we miss the depth of what Nathan is saying and the ways that he points out to us how easy it is for all of us to look past the things that we don't want to see about ourselves.
Because Bathsheba is now pregnant. And rather than own up to what he's done, David instead recalls Uriah from the battle, hoping that he'll come home, he'll sleep with his wife, and that will secret away David's sin. Uriah, though, distraught about his fellow soldiers being at war while he's at home, refuses to sleep with his wife. Doubling down, David tries to get him drunk, and he drops him off at home to see if that will help. But Uriah still refuses. Finally, David sends Uriah back to the battle, this time with an order for his generals to place him out front and then leave him stranded when the fighting starts. Let's point out the obvious here. Refusing to own our mistakes, attempting to hide them, paper over them, only ever makes everything worse. Because now David is a rapist and a murderer. And somehow, the story only gets worse from here. Chapter 12, the Lord sent Nathan to David. When he came to him, he said, there were two men in a certain town, one rich and the other poor. And the rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle. But the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb he had bought. He raised it, and he grew up with him and his children. He shared his food, drank from his cup, even slept in his arms. And it was like a daughter to him. But when a traveler came to the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal. Instead, he took the little ewe lamb that belonged to the poor man and prepared it for the one who had come. David burned with anger against this man and said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over. How could he do such a thing, having no pity? And Nathan said to him, David, you are that man. Not really sure there's a lot to add here. Nathan does just a wonderful job of demonstrating how easy it is for us to see sin at a distance and how difficult it can be to spot it the closer it gets. I think of it like this. If you hold out your finger from you at a distance, you can see it, you can focus on it. In fact, the weight of your arm means you can barely even ignore it. And yet the closer you bring it to your face, the closer you bring it until finally you're touching your nose, at that point, you can still see it, you know it's there, but it's almost easier to just look past it. I don't think for a second that David didn't know what he has done was wrong. He doesn't need Nathan to tell him that. He needs Nathan to remind him about everything that he is choosing to look past simply because he wants to look past it. And you know what I find particularly scary about reading Nathan's story here is just how easy it is for me to see the point when it's pointed at David. I mean, that's the whole point of the story, right? If I read this and I immediately conclude that David is a scumbag, I'm right. But I also might, in that moment, be looking past a lot in my own life that I'm choosing not to see. And that's not all about letting David off the hook, not for a second. He deserves everything that's coming to him. It's about being honest with the things that I choose not to see about myself so that maybe I can avoid what's coming for me down the line as well.